Beneath the Pyramid of the Sun rests a secret that defies explanation. A hidden layer of glittering mica sheets lies buried under millions of tons of ancient stone, and their true purpose remains one of archaeology's most captivating puzzles. By the end of this journey, you will understand why this single discovery forces us to completely rethink the technological and spiritual sophistication of a lost civilization. Were these sheets part of a forgotten energy system, or a map to the stars deliberately concealed from the world? We are about to explore a mystery woven into the very foundation of a pyramid. What do you believe is the most enduring legacy of a civilization that leaves no written records? The year was 1906, and deep within the shadow of that monumental structure, a team was conducting a careful survey of the pyramid's internal composition. They were not seeking treasure but understanding, methodically documenting the layers of earth and stone that formed the pyramid's heart. Their tools were simple, their progress measured in inches. Then, against all expectation, their probes struck something that was neither packed earth nor rough volcanic rock. It was a layer of delicate, shimmering sheets, almost like the pages of a giant, petrified book stacked silently in the dark. This was mica, a mineral known for its brilliant luster and surprising flexibility, found not as a decorative fragment but as a continuous, buried stratum. Imagine the moment of realization in that cramped, dusty tunnel. Here was a material that could be split into sheets thinner than paper, carefully placed by ancient hands, and then sealed away under millions of tons of stone, forever hidden from the world above. It made no sense from an engineering standpoint. Mica is not a load-bearing stone. It adds no strength to a foundation. Its presence was a deliberate, perplexing choice, a signature left not on the surface for all to see, but within the very body of the pyramid, as if meant only for the earth itself, or for some purpose far beyond mere construction. That single discovery turned a routine study into an enduring enigma. Why go to such extraordinary lengths to hide something so beautiful and so seemingly useless? The answer, it seemed, was written in the unique properties of the material itself. Mica is not just another pretty stone. To grasp the profound strangeness of finding it buried beneath a pyramid, you have to appreciate what it actually is. Think of the most perfect, flaky pastry you have ever seen, a material that naturally forms in layers so uniform and so clean that they can be peeled apart by hand into sheets thinner than paper, yet remarkably strong. That is mica's defining trait, a property called perfect basal cleavage. This isn't like splitting a rock with a hammer. It is more like opening the pages of a book that nature itself wrote in mineral form. These sheets are flexible, they can bend without snapping, and they are incredibly resistant to heat. In our world today, we rely on these very qualities. That thin, heat-resistant sheet inside your toaster or hair dryer, that is mica. It is a vital insulator in electrical systems, from power plants to spacecraft, because it does not conduct electricity and can withstand tremendous temperatures without melting. We even crush its shimmering flakes to add a luminous glow to paints and cosmetics. So this material, which we associate with high technology and modern industry, was somehow known, valued, and meticulously utilized by the builders of Teotihuacan over 1,000 years ago. Sourcing large, pristine sheets would have been a monumental task in itself, requiring precise quarrying and careful transportation across potentially great distances. This was not a casual decoration tossed into the mix. Its selection speaks of a deep, intentional understanding of the material's unique gifts. The builders saw something in mica that we, with all our science, are only now beginning to measure. They recognized a substance of both physical and perhaps spiritual potency, which makes its decision to hide it away rather than display it the core of the mystery. What did they know about this stone that we have overlooked? The sheer scale of the undertaking defies belief. To truly appreciate the Mica's mystery, you must first stand at the foot of the Pyramid of the Sun and feel its overwhelming presence. This is not a pile of rocks, it is a mountain made by human hands, a geometric peak rising from the valley floor. Its construction consumed over 1 million cubic meters of stone, adobe, and earth, moved without the wheel, without metal tools, without beasts of burden. Every single piece was carried, shaped, and placed according to a master plan that spanned generations. This pyramid anchors the entire city of Teotihuacan, a metropolis laid out with breathtaking precision along the Avenue of the Dead, its buildings and avenues aligned to the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars. This was a civilization that thought in epochs and designed in celestial geometry. Within that context, nothing was accidental. Every choice, from the orientation of a street to the composition of a foundation layer, was deliberate and charged with meaning. So when we find a carefully installed bed of specialized mineral sheets buried deep within this cosmic engine, we cannot dismiss it as a quirky builder's whim. It was an integral, though secret, component of the grand design. The immense effort required to source, transport, and conceal this material matches the immense spiritual and architectural ambition of the city itself. This forces a profound shift in perspective. We are no longer looking at a simple temple or a royal tomb. We are looking at something that might function more like a complex device, where every element, even the invisible ones, played a role in a larger, sacred operation. The mica was not hidden because it was unimportant. It was hidden because its purpose was too important to be left exposed. What kind of function demands such perfect concealment within the heart of a civilization's greatest monument? This leads us to a theory as electrifying as the material itself. Could the mica sheets have been a component in an ancient power source? The idea stems from the mineral's undeniable modern application. We use mica precisely because it is a superb electrical insulator capable of containing and directing energy. Some researchers propose the builders of Teotihuacan might have understood this property on a fundamental level. They suggest the buried layer could have been designed to interact with telluric currents, which are subtle flows of electrical charge that move through the ground itself. In this view, the pyramid is not merely a static monument, but a kind of architectural receiver, with the mica acting as a critical insulating buffer or a focusing lens for this natural terrestrial energy. Proponents of this view often draw connections to other enigmatic sites around the world where unusual minerals or geometries are found, asking if there was a lost global understanding of Earth energies. While mainstream archaeology finds this theory difficult to accept due to the absence of any machinery or wiring we would recognize, its persistence is telling. It speaks to a deep public intuition that the pyramid's form and its hidden contents must have served a dynamic, functional purpose beyond simple ritual. The theory, however speculative, serves a crucial role. It forces a radical question. What if our definition of technology is too narrow? We look for gears and wires and overlook the possibility of a technology based on resonance, geology, and a profound attunement to planetary forces that we are only beginning to measure with our instruments. The mica's perfect suitability for such a role is a haunting coincidence that refuses to be ignored. Yet, if not a machine for power, perhaps it was a machine for perception. The glittering sheets may have served a purpose far more profound than any earthly machine. Another compelling line of thought moves from the technological to the deeply symbolic, viewing the mica not as an electrical component, but as a ritual insulator. Its remarkable physical properties take on a spiritual dimension here. Mica is an exceptional barrier against heat transfer, capable of shielding whatever lies behind it from the scorching sun above and the cool earth below. Could this buried layer have been designed to protect something within the pyramid's very heart? Perhaps it encased a sacred inner chamber, a space meant to remain at a constant hallowed temperature, untouched by the outside world's cycles. Or maybe it insulated a precious offering, a gift to the gods intended to be preserved in a state of perfect, eternal purity. The act of sealing it away forever would then be the ultimate act of reverence, a gift never meant for mortal eyes again. But the symbolism runs even deeper. In the shimmering, light-catching quality of the mica itself, we might find a direct connection to the pyramid's identity. This is, after all, the Pyramid of the Sun. The stone's brilliant, reflective surface could have been seen as a captured piece of sunlight, a fragment of the celestial body buried to empower and sanctify the structure from within. In Mesoamerican cosmology, materials that shone or held water were often linked to concepts of vitality and the underworld. By placing this luminous sheet beneath millions of tons of stone, the builders may have been creating a permanent, hidden cosmogram, a physical map of the universe. The pyramid touching the sky would represent the heavens, while the buried mica represented a shimmering boundary or a subterranean realm. This transforms the entire monument from a simple building into a three-dimensional prayer, a frozen moment of cosmology where every layer, seen and unseen, held meaning. The decision to hide the mica becomes clear in this light. Its power was not for display, it was for function within the sacred blueprint. The secrecy was the point, making the structure's spiritual mechanics as real and operational as its stone steps. This theory invites us to listen to the pyramid not as engineers, but as interpreters of a lost symbolic language, where geology and belief were woven into a single, profound truth. The mystery only deepens when we ask where this remarkable material came from. Geological analysis of the mica sheets has yielded a result that is as baffling as their presence. The specific type and quality of mica found beneath the pyramid does not match local deposits. In fact, the nearest known source for mica of this purity and size is not in Mexico at all, but thousands of kilometers to the south, in what is now Brazil. This single piece of data transforms a construction puzzle into a staggering feat of ancient logistics. Picture the journey not of a single sheet, but of enough of this delicate mineral to create a continuous buried layer. How do you transport something that can shatter like glass across mountain ranges, through dense jungle, and over vast distances without the benefit of wheels, pack animals, or paved roads? The very thought stretches our understanding of pre-Columbian capabilities to its limit. It implies one of two incredible scenarios. Either the Teotihuacanos maintained or accessed vast, sophisticated trade networks that spanned continents, networks so efficient they could move fragile luxury goods across unimaginable geography. Or they possessed precise geological knowledge of deposits thousands of miles from their home, knowledge that would have required dedicated, generations-long expeditions of exploration. Both possibilities speak to a civilization with a far wider reach and a far more complex economy than we often assume. The mica, therefore, was not just a special material, it was a prestige item of immense value. Its procurement would have been an elite endeavor, likely obtained through high-level exchange, diplomatic gift-giving, or sponsored voyages. The sheer cost in human effort and resources elevates its purpose. You do not go to such extraordinary lengths for a simple foundation filler. This was a substance deemed so essential to the pyramid's function, or meaning that its origin story became part of its power. The mica's journey from a Brazilian quarry to a sealed chamber in central Mexico is a mystery nested within the larger one, a silent testament to the interconnectedness of the ancient Americas long before European contact. The procurement alone shouts its importance across the centuries. The method of its installation reveals a mind-bending level of intention. These were not simply slabs tossed into a pit before the pyramid was built. Archaeological evidence shows the mica sheets were interspersed within the layers of fill material, placed carefully as the pyramid grew upward, phase by phase. This is a critical distinction. It means the mica was not an afterthought or a hidden treasure buried beneath a finished monument. It was written into the original blueprint, a mandatory line in the construction specifications, as essential as the choice of stone or the angle of the slope. Its placement was a scheduled, deliberate act repeated throughout the building process. Think of it like this. Instead of building a house and then secretly sliding a special object under the foundation, the builders were weaving that object directly into the concrete as they poured each floor. The mica became an inseparable part of the pyramid's physical body, its crystalline structure locked in an eternal embrace with millions of tons of earth and rock. This transforms our understanding of the builder's goal. They were not creating a shell to be decorated later. They were growing a living entity, layer by sacred layer, with each stratum possessing its own specific meaning and function. The most powerful component was destined to be invisible. This deliberate concealment is perhaps the most eloquent statement the Teotihuacanos left us. In a city of staggering visual splendor, with frescoes and sculptures meant to awe, they chose to hide one of their most laborious and exotic materials where no one could ever admire it. This flips our modern logic completely on its head. We build skyscrapers with gleaming facades to proclaim achievement. We design monuments for maximum visibility. At Teotihuacan, ultimate purpose was not synonymous with display. True power, in their view, might have resided in what was withheld, what was internalized, what was given over completely to the structure and its spiritual purpose without any need for an audience. The construction process itself becomes a performative ritual, a sacred drama where each phase culminated in sealing away a piece of the cosmos forever. The workers laying those sheets were not just laborers, they were participants in a profound act of offering, burying a luminous secret to empower the mountain they were creating. This challenges us to listen to the silence, to understand that a civilization's greatest statement might not be in what it shows the world, but in what it deliberately, reverently hides from it. This pattern of using mica stretches far beyond the Valley of Mexico. To find its true significance, we must widen our view across oceans and centuries. In the tombs of Egypt's Old Kingdom, archaeologists have uncovered delicate sheets of mica carefully placed within burial chambers, sometimes lining sarcophagi or adorning ceremonial objects. Half a world away, Roman builders occasionally incorporated thin layers of the mineral into the walls of certain temples and bath complexes, valuing its durability and reflective qualities. These scattered instances from the Nile to the Mediterranean form a faint but undeniable thread woven through ancient engineering. In each case, the material appears in spaces of profound importance, places dedicated to the sacred, to remembrance, or to communal ritual. It is rarely a primary building block, but rather a specialized layer, a hidden detail meant to serve a specific, elevated purpose. This cross-cultural recurrence is too striking to dismiss as mere coincidence. It points toward a shared, almost intuitive recognition of mica's unique gifts. Different civilizations with no possible contact independently identified this glittering mineral as something set apart from common stone. They saw in its flexibility, its heat resistance, and its luminous sheen a substance that could bridge the physical and the spiritual, offering protection, purity, or a kind of perfected insulation for their most hallowed spaces. This global pattern does something remarkable. It lifts the mystery at Teotihuacan from an isolated curiosity and places it firmly within a grand, human narrative. It suggests that the builders of the Pyramid of the Sun were participating in a deep, almost universal language of sacred architecture, a language spoken through the choice of materials. Yet here is where the comparison sharpens the mystery instead of blurring it. While others used mica, the Teotihuacanos executed the idea on a scale and with a secrecy that remains unparalleled. They did not place a few sheets in a tomb, they integrated an entire continuous stratum into the living body of their greatest monument. They did not simply include it, they made it disappear forever beneath a mountain of stone. This elevates their application from a symbolic gesture to what seems like an operational necessity. The parallels show us they were speaking a known language, but the sheer ambition of their project suggests they were using that language to write a far more complex sentence, one we are still struggling to read. The global context confirms the material's special status, but it also highlights the breathtaking singularity of the choice to bury it so completely, making the Pyramid of the Sun not just another example, but perhaps the ultimate expression of an ancient ideal. Modern science has turned its most precise instruments toward the glittering sheets, seeking answers in their atomic structure. Sophisticated techniques like spectrography and isotopic analysis have scrutinized the mica's chemical fingerprint, and the results are clear. The composition matches deposits found thousands of miles away, lending strong support to the astonishing Brazilian origin theory. These methods can tell us with near certainty what the material is and where it likely came from. They ground the mystery in verified physical fact, yet for all their power, these tools fall silent when asked the most compelling question. They cannot tell us why it is there. The why exists in a different dimension, one of belief and intention, which leaves no isotopic signature to measure. This is the precise boundary where our most advanced analytics meet their limit, confronting a choice made by minds thinking in a framework we can only partially reconstruct. Attempts to move beyond composition into function have proven even more challenging. Researchers using sensitive equipment to scan for unusual energy fields, residual electromagnetic patterns, or telluric current anomalies at the pyramid have reported conflicting data. Some claim faint, anomalous readings, while others attribute these to natural geological variations or modern interference. The results remain inconclusive and hotly debated within scientific circles. This is not a failure of technology, but rather a demonstration of the gap it must bridge. A device built to measure microteslas or hertz is trying to detect the echo of a ritual act, the shadow of a symbolic gesture. The scientific method excels at stripping away superstition to reveal material truth, but it can struggle to interpret a truth that was, for its creators, equally material and spiritual. The mica's purpose may reside not in a measurable voltage, but in a perceived sacredness, an insulating property that was as much about protecting spiritual essence as it was about blocking physical heat. This creates the core dilemma of the investigation. We have the data, we have the provenance, but we lack the cultural cipher to translate them into meaning. The sheets are a message in a bottle, but we are still learning the alphabet of the sea that carried them. Our instruments give us the paper and the ink, but the message itself remains locked in the intent of the scribe, an intent woven from cosmology, not chemistry. This gap is where the true fascination lies, in the space between what we can prove and what we feel must be true, a space that invites us to listen with more than just our instruments. Brilliance was not merely an aesthetic quality in the ancient world, it was a form of sacred language. For the people of Mesoamerica, light was synonymous with life force, and anything that shimmered, gleamed, or reflected was seen as holding a fragment of that divine power. Water, polished obsidian mirrors, and iridescent feathers were all conduits to the other world. In this symbolic framework, the mica sheets take on a breathtaking new meaning. Their natural, pearlescent shimmer would not have been just a pretty accident of geology. It would have been understood as captured sunlight, solidified radiance. Imagine the significance, then, of taking this solidified light and deliberately burying it in perpetual darkness beneath a mountain of stone. This was not an act of concealment in the mundane sense. It was a profound cosmological statement. The pyramid of the sun, aligned so precisely to the solar cycles, was more than a monument to the sun in the sky. It was a map of the sun's entire journey, including the part no human could witness, its nightly passage through the underworld. By embedding sheets of captured light within the earth, the builders may have been creating a symbolic reservoir, a guarantee that the sun's power would never truly vanish. It was a way of tethering the celestial to the terrestrial, ensuring that even in the heart of the earth, light persisted. This transforms the pyramid from a static object into a dynamic engine of cosmic renewal. The buried mica becomes the permanent, hidden counterpart to the blazing star above, a spiritual battery charged with the promise of dawn. It speaks to a worldview where death was not an end, but a necessary phase in a cycle of rebirth, where darkness was not emptiness, but a vessel waiting to be filled again. This interpretation resonates perfectly with the pyramid's role as an axis mundi, a central pillar bridging the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. The glittering sheets, forever hidden, become the luminous thread connecting all three realms, a silent testament to the belief that life, light, and spirit are unbreakable, cycling eternally beneath the surface of things. It is a poetic and powerful reading that requires no advanced physics, only a deep empathy for how these people saw their universe. The mica's purpose in this light was to be a perfect, eternal metaphor made stone. Some might argue the simplest answer is the correct one. Could this glittering layer be nothing more than a geological accident, a random vein of local stone that builders simply used as convenient fill? This mundane explanation is tempting for its simplicity, but it collapses when held up to the evidence. The mica was not found scattered randomly throughout the pyramid's rubble. It was encountered as distinct, continuous sheets, placed with clear spatial organization during the phased construction. This structured placement alone speaks of design, not happenstance. Furthermore, the mineral's specific signature points far from the local valley to distant, exotic sources. You do not embark on a continent-spanning logistical nightmare for simple filler. Every other facet of Teotihuacan reveals a culture obsessed with precision, from the city's celestial alignments to the exact proportions of its temples. To suggest that here, and only here, at the very heart of their greatest project, they suddenly worked with blind, accidental materials is an inconsistency the facts cannot support. The mica's presence was a choice, a costly and deliberate one. Accepting this forces a significant intellectual shift. We must move from asking if it was meant to be there to grappling with the far more difficult question of why. Its intentionality is the anchor of the entire mystery, the undeniable fact that pulls us deeper into the puzzle. This was not a casual inclusion, it was a mandatory line in a sacred blueprint, written in a language of stone and light we are still learning to read. Perhaps the sheets we found are merely the scattered pieces of a much grander design. This leads to a captivating theory, one that proposes the discovered mica is not an isolated layer, but the fragmented remains of an entire hidden chamber that once existed within the pyramid's heart. Picture not just a few buried sheets, but a complete room, its walls, ceiling, and floor meticulously lined with this luminous mineral, creating a space that would have shimmered with captured light from a single torch or beam of sun channeled from above. This imagined chamber transforms our understanding of the pyramid's interior from a solid mass of fill into a complex architectural puzzle. It suggests a concealed luxury, a secret sanctum of breathtaking beauty built not for public ceremony, but for a profoundly private, perhaps potent purpose. Such a room could have served as a resonant chamber for rituals where sound and light interacted in powerful ways, or as a perfectly insulated repository for the civilization's most sacred objects, protected from humidity, temperature shifts, and time itself. The technical skill required to construct and then completely conceal such a space is staggering, implying a mastery of interior architecture that rivals the pyramid's external grandeur. While no such intact room has been discovered, the theory is compelling because it explains the mica's presence not as a functional layer in an energy system, but as a decorative and protective lining for a space of ultimate importance. It turns the entire pyramid of the sun into a nested mystery, a series of shells hiding a precious core. The sheets we have found, then, are not the answer but a tantalizing clue. They are the echoes of a larger architecture that may have collapsed under the immense weight of the pyramid over the centuries, or that remains perfectly preserved, waiting silently in the dark, just beyond the reach of our current excavations. This possibility redefines the scale of what might still be hidden, suggesting we have only been listening to whispers from a room whose walls we have yet to find. The glittering sheets beneath the pyramid force a confrontation far larger than the stones themselves. They lie at the heart of a fundamental debate about how we listen to the whispers of the past. On one side stands mainstream archaeology, a discipline built on methodical evidence, cultural context, and cautious interpretation. From this perspective, the mica is a profound ritual object. Its meaning is unlocked not by testing for voltage, but by understanding Teotihuacan's cosmology, its reverence for shining materials, and its practice of embedding sacred items within architecture. The explanation is symbolic, powerful, and rooted in the known spiritual framework of the people who built it. To suggest a technological purpose, like energy collection, without any corroborating machinery or textual reference, is seen as projecting our modern worldview onto an ancient one. It risks replacing their rich, spiritual reality with a science fiction narrative they would not recognize. Yet, on the other side of this divide, alternative researchers argue that caution can become a cage. They see the mica's perfect physical properties, its insulating and heat-resistant qualities we use today, and ask a bold question. Why dismiss the possibility that ancient people observed and utilized these same properties, even if their application looked nothing like our wiring and circuits? They propose that our definition of technology is arrogantly narrow, that a civilization which aligned cities to stars might have understood Earth energies in ways we are only beginning to rediscover. For them, the mica is an out-of-place artifact, a tangible clue pointing to a forgotten chapter of sophisticated knowledge, perhaps even a lost global understanding. This view is fueled by the sheer, inexplicable effort of its procurement and concealment, which feels disproportionate for a purely symbolic gesture. This is more than an academic quarrel. It is a clash of frameworks, a choice between two different lenses for viewing history. One lens focuses tightly on the specific cultural box, insisting all answers must be found inside it. The other lens scans the horizon for patterns and connections that leap across continents and epochs, often filling gaps in the record with speculative leaps. The mica sheets are the perfect test subject for both, because the raw facts, what they are and where they are from, are agreed upon. The chasm opens over the question of why. And that why says as much about us as it does about Teotihuacan. Are we, in our data-driven age, uncomfortable with answers that are purely spiritual or symbolic, instinctively seeking a mechanical function we can quantify? Or are we, in our awe, too quick to gift ancient cultures with our level of technical prowess, inadvertently robbing them of their own unique genius? Navigating this divide is not about picking a winner, but about holding the tension. A balanced understanding likely incorporates light from both sides. Perhaps the most profound truth is that for the builders, there was no separation between the spiritual and the technological. The mica's ability to insulate was not a separate physical trait, it was part of its sacred essence. Using it to protect a ritual space or represent captured sunlight was a high technology of the spirit, a functional application of cosmic principles. Their science was their religion, and their engineering was their prayer. This perspective allows the mica to be both a ritual insulator and a highly advanced material choice, its purpose unified in a world we struggle to fully inhabit. The debate then becomes a vital dialogue, pushing both sides to refine their arguments and deepen their respect for the mystery. It ensures we neither reduce a masterpiece to simple mechanics nor cloak it in unprovable fantasy, but instead stand humbly before it, acknowledging that some secrets are buried not just in earth but in the very way we think. Perhaps the most enduring purpose of the mica was astonishingly practical. While our minds leap to cosmic energies and hidden chambers, the sheets may have performed a humble, vital job. They could have been a shield. Mica is naturally impermeable to water, forming an almost perfect barrier against moisture and vapor. In the damp environment of the valley, with seasonal rains and a high water table, this property would have been incredibly valuable. The builders may have strategically layered these sheets to act as a sophisticated damp-proof course, protecting the pyramid's compacted earth and clay core from groundwater seepage and rising damp. This would prevent the internal structure from becoming waterlogged, which could cause settling, erosion, or even catastrophic collapse over centuries. Think of it as a giant, ancient version of the plastic sheeting we lay under a modern foundation. It is a brilliantly pragmatic solution to a fundamental engineering challenge. Furthermore, by controlling humidity within specific sections, such a barrier could have served a dual purpose. If certain chambers or offering caches existed, a stable, dry environment would be essential for preserving delicate organic materials, textiles, wooden objects, or ceremonial bundles that would otherwise rot away to nothing. This transforms the mica from a mystical component into a masterstroke of preservation technology, a deliberate choice to ensure the monument's physical endurance. This theory lacks the flash of cosmic speculation, but its power lies in its elegant simplicity. It demonstrates a profound, observational understanding of material science. The Teotihuacanos did not just see a shiny stone. They recognized a substance that could lock out the very element that destroys all things, water. Their goal was eternity, and they employed a material that fights time's most relentless ally. This utilitarian view does not diminish the mica's significance, it deepens it. It shows a civilization whose genius was holistic, seamlessly blending the spiritual and the practical. The pyramid was both a prayer to the sun and a feat of hydrological engineering. The mica was both a captured piece of sunlight and a perfectly calculated moisture barrier. In their worldview, these were not separate functions. Protecting the sacred structure's physical heart was a spiritual imperative. Ensuring its longevity was an act of devotion. So, while we may be drawn to the stars for answers, the most compelling clue might lie in the earth itself, in the quiet, relentless patience of water, and in the clever, enduring shield a brilliant civilization placed in its path. The silence of Teotihuacan is profound. While empires like the Maya carved their histories into stone, the people of this great city left no decipherable written records. Their language, their names for their gods, the specific stories they told about the pyramid's creation, all are lost to the centuries. In that echoing quiet, the mica sheets become something more than an artifact. They are a direct, unfiltered message from the builders themselves, a statement crafted not in ink but in mineral and intention. Without a scribe's hand to interpret or a later king to claim credit, this physical choice speaks with a raw honesty. It tells us across 1,000 years that something of immense importance was happening here, something deemed worthy of continent-spanning effort and perfect concealment. When you cannot read a civilization's books, you must learn to read its actions, its architecture, its material choices. This is the language of doing. The careful placement of each shimmering sheet is a sentence in that language. The decision to hide it forever is a powerful paragraph. In this material dialect, the mica is a key word, and its definition seems to include concepts like permanence, sacred insulation, and a deep reverence for the hidden mechanics of the world. The builders invested their greatest resources not in what would be seen, but in what would be sealed. This inverts our modern logic of monuments. We build to be remembered. They built to remember something else, to make a promise to the earth and the sky that required no human audience. The Mica is their primary source document, a testament written in geology, waiting for us to learn its grammar. It urges us to consider a worldview where value was measured not in display, but in potency, where the most powerful things were often kept out of sight, integrated into the foundation of reality itself. This silent, physical argument challenges us to move beyond looking for kings and conquests, and to instead listen for the hum of a different priority, one focused on alignment, essence, and a legacy woven directly into the bones of a mountain. We may never know the words they used, but in the cool, glittering sheets beneath the pyramid, we can feel the weight of what they believed was worth saying without a single sound. The Mica's journey from Brazil rewrites the map of the ancient Americas. We often picture pre-Columbian civilizations as isolated islands of culture, separated by vast jungles and mountain ranges, developing in splendid isolation. This single material shatters that assumption. To get those sheets to central Mexico required a chain of human interactions stretching over thousands of miles, a network so robust it could handle the transfer of a fragile, non-essential luxury good. This implies a level of organization and long-distance contact that rivals the famed Silk Road of the Old World, a silent highway of exchange running through the heart of the continents. It was not merely a trade in pretty stones, it was a trade in specialized knowledge. Someone, somewhere, had to recognize the unique quality of that specific mica deposit. Others needed the expertise to quarry it in large, unbroken sheets without shattering it. Then came the artisans who understood how to pack and cradle it for a journey that could take months or even years, passing through countless hands and territories. This points to a class of specialist traders or diplomatic envoys, individuals or families whose entire role was to navigate between distant powers, brokering deals for exotic materials that held ritual significance. Teotihuacan, as the dominant metropolis of its age, likely sat at the center of this web. It was a gravitational pull, drawing in not just mica, but obsidian, feathers, cacao, and ideas from every direction to fuel its spiritual and architectural ambitions. The mica sheet, therefore, is a tiny, glittering tag with a provenance sticker that reads, "Across continents." It forces us to replace static maps with dynamic ones, drawn with lines of commerce, diplomacy, and shared technological understanding. This interconnectedness suggests the flow of ideas was constant. Architectural styles, artistic motifs, and even calendrical systems might have traveled along these same routes, carried by the same traders who transported the sacred stone. The pyramid we see as a solitary monument was, in truth, a collective achievement of the ancient Americas. Its hidden heart sourced from a mountain range its builders may never have seen, but whose value they intimately understood. This reframes Teotihuacan not as an isolated wonder, but as a cosmopolitan hub, a place where the continent's best resources and deepest knowledge converge to create something transcendent. The mica is our physical evidence for a lost world of conversation, a dialogue between cultures that speaks through the materials they chose to hide rather than display. The pyramid's precise orientation is its most famous feature. Its western face aligns almost perfectly to the point where the sun sets on specific days of the year, marking the agricultural and ceremonial calendar. This celestial connection is undeniable, but what if the mica's secret placement is part of that same cosmic blueprint? A small but dedicated group of researchers asks if the glittering sheets were positioned not just anywhere, but at a very specific geometric or astronomical coordinate within the pyramid's vast bulk. Could they have been aligned to channel something during a solar zenith passage, that moment when the sun stands directly overhead, casting no shadow? Or perhaps they marked an alignment with the rising of a particularly important star, like Sirius or the Pleiades, whose cycles held deep meaning for ancient sky watchers. In this speculative view, the mica was not a passive layer. It might have acted as a subtle reflector or a marker. Imagine a narrow shaft, now collapsed, designed to admit a single beam of sunlight on one specific day of the year. That beam, striking the buried, shimmering surface of the mica, could have created a dramatic effect. A sudden, hidden flash of light deep within the earth, a secret confirmation of a celestial event witnessed only by the structure itself and perhaps a select few who knew where to look. The sheets could have amplified or focused this light in a way ordinary stone could not. Testing this idea is a monumental task of digital reconstruction. It requires creating precise three-dimensional models of the pyramid, the known mica layer, and the ancient sky, then running simulations to see if any unique alignments emerge. This is where archaeology meets archaeoastronomy, a field dedicated to decoding the celestial knowledge embedded in ancient architecture. While no definitive proof exists, the theory is compelling because it directly connects the pyramid's hidden component to its most obvious purpose. It suggests the builders were engineering on multiple levels simultaneously. The grand external form spoke to the public, aligning with the sun's dramatic solstice setting. But the hidden internal mechanism might have marked a more subtle, equally important celestial moment, a private conversation between the monument and the cosmos. This transforms the pyramid of the sun from a calendar in stone into a kind of cosmic clock with both a public face and a secret, ticking heart. The mica, then, could be the hidden gear in that clock, a component meant to catch a fleeting beam of celestial light and transform it into a moment of sacred confirmation, an event meant not for crowds but for the earth and the gods. There is something uniquely magnetic about a mystery that rests on a solid foundation of fact. We are not chasing ghosts or vague legends here. The mica sheets are real. You can visit the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City and see them for yourself, preserved under glass, their subtle shimmer still visible after more than 1,000 years in the dark. They are a tangible, physical anchor in a sea of questions. This concrete evidence is what separates a compelling historical puzzle from pure fantasy. We have the artifact, we know its exotic origin, we can trace the immense labor of its placement. Yet, when we ask the simplest question, why is it there, the solid ground of fact gives way to a chasm of possibilities. That precise gap, the space between the undeniable object and its elusive purpose, is where true fascination ignites. It is a void that invites interpretation, a blank page upon which scientists, historians, and dreamers alike can project their visions of the past. This is why the mica captivates us so deeply. It presents a problem that feels solvable, a riddle that must have an answer, yet it withholds that answer with perfect grace. It dangles the keys to understanding just beyond our reach, compelling us to keep looking, to keep wondering. The sheets are a perfect historical catalyst. They do not tell a story, they demand that we create one, drawing from the edges of archaeology, materials science, cosmology, and human intuition. In doing so, the mystery performs a subtle magic. It transforms the past from a static collection of dates and objects into a living, breathing conversation. We are not merely receiving history from the Teotihuacanos, we are engaging in a dialogue with them, asking questions across the centuries, and listening for replies in the language of stone and intention. Some conversations are straightforward, but this one is spoken in a dialect we are still deciphering, a tongue where a glittering mineral sheet can be a word that means insulation, starlight, eternity, or power all at once. The enduring allure is that we may never fully translate it, and perhaps that is the point. The mica's greatest gift is not a solved equation, but a sustained sense of wonder. Its legacy is not just as a Mesoamerican artifact, but as a permanent invitation to remain curious, to respect the limits of our knowledge, and to appreciate that some of humanity's most profound statements were made not to be understood, but to be pondered forever. Centuries after the last resident left Teotihuacan, a new power rose in the valley. The Aztecs encountered the silent, grass-covered pyramids and named them the City of the Gods, believing them to be the work of giants from a previous age. They revered the site as a sacred origin point, conducting pilgrimages and making offerings within its abandoned plazas. While we have no record that they ever discovered the buried mica sheets, their own spiritual practices reveal a profound conceptual echo. The Aztecs frequently engaged in acts of concealed dedication, burying precious offerings in temple foundations and constructing new layers of architecture over older, hallowed ones. This was not mere rebuilding, it was a ritual act of renewal and containment, a way of harnessing and continuing the sacred power of a place. In this light, the hidden mica layer of Teotihuacan can be seen as a powerful precedent, a physical manifestation of this very idea executed on a staggering scale. The Teotihuacanos may have perfected the art of architectural offering, embedding the most potent materials directly into the heart of their monument, making the offering and the structure one and the same. The Aztecs, inheriting the aura of the place, inherited the logic as well, even if the specific blueprint was lost to time. They felt the pyramid's power and responded in a spiritually consistent way, by adding their own hidden layers of meaning to the sacred landscape. This suggests a fascinating transmission. The technical knowledge of how to quarry and place giant mica sheets vanished, but the deeper principle, that true sacred power requires concealment, that the most important gifts are given to the earth itself, lived on. The memory of the pyramid's special nature persisted in ritual and legend, long after the reason for that specialness was forgotten. The mica became a permanent, if unknown, part of the site's spiritual infrastructure, its physical presence continuing to exert an influence no one could name. This is how legacy often functions, not through perfect preservation of facts, but through the enduring resonance of an idea. A civilization falls, its language fades, but the meaning it poured into a place seeps into the soil, waiting to inspire those who come next, even if they understand that inspiration in entirely new terms. The glittering sheets, forever hidden, ensured that the Pyramid of the Sun would never be just an empty ruin, but a vessel forever awaiting interpretation, its greatest secret quietly shaping every act of reverence that followed. The mica's very survival is a small miracle of preservation. These delicate sheets, thinner than parchment, endured the immense, crushing weight of the pyramid for over a millennium, only to be exposed to air and light in the modern era. This fragility is the silent, sobering counterpoint to the entire investigation. Our understanding hinges on a substance that could have easily crumbled to dust, lost forever to the slightest shift in the earth or a careless stroke of a tool. The fact we have them at all is a testament to both ancient engineering and sheer archaeological fortune. Yet this good fortune comes with a profound caveat. Each shimmering fragment we recover is a precious data point in an incredibly sparse dataset. We are not reading a complete manuscript from the past. We are piecing together a story from a handful of glittering, scattered phrases, many of which were lost the moment they were first uncovered. The original context, the exact orientation of each sheet, its relationship to others, any trace materials that might have been placed with it, is often the first casualty of discovery. This means we are interpreting a mystery with only a fraction of the original evidence, a reality that demands intellectual humility. It forces us to acknowledge that every theory, from the most conservative to the most speculative, is built upon a foundation that is partially missing. The mica sheets are not a clear answer, they are a brilliant, fragile question mark. This inherent precariousness underscores a deeper truth about archaeology itself. We are not time travelers witnessing events unfold. We are detectives arriving long after the scene has been altered by centuries of silence. the evidence we seek is often ephemeral, vulnerable to water, air, and the simple passage of time. A single, well-preserved layer like this mica is a rare gift, a narrow window into a world that chose to hide its most important components. This places an immense ethical weight on the act of excavation. The moment of discovery is also a moment of irreversible change. The careful brush that reveals a sheet can also separate it from the soil that held it secret. The photograph that documents it cannot capture the precise pressure of the earth around it. Each intervention is a balance between gaining knowledge and losing context forever. Studying the mica, therefore, is not just an exercise in solving a puzzle. It is an exercise in careful listening, in recognizing the limits of what we can ever truly know, and in preserving the question for those who may one day ask it with better tools or a wiser perspective. Our window into this mystery is, and may always remain, tantalizingly narrow, a sliver of light in a vast, dark chamber of the past. Buried within the pyramid's growth rings, the mica offers a gift to science beyond its mystery. Its placement is not random. It exists at a specific, documented depth within the sequenced layers of fill. This transforms the glittering sheets into something remarkably practical, a precise chronological marker frozen in time. For archaeologists, stratigraphy, the study of these sequential layers, is the fundamental clock of the past. Each stratum represents a moment, a phase of construction or occupation. The mica layer is a brilliant, unmistakable line drawn in that geological timeline. By using techniques like radiocarbon dating on organic materials found in the layers immediately above and below the mica, researchers can effectively bracket the exact period when this material was installed. This could pinpoint a specific decade or even a specific generation of builders within the pyramid's long construction history. Suddenly, the mica is more than a symbolic object. It becomes a vital tool for historical precision. Knowing exactly when it was placed opens a new avenue for understanding why. Imagine being able to link the installation of this exotic, hidden layer to a specific event known from other evidence at Teotihuacan. Was it initiated at the beginning of a new ruler's reign as a foundational act of power? Did it coincide with a major celestial event like the completion of a 52-year calendar cycle, demanding a monumental response? Could it mark the conclusion of a major phase of urban expansion, a capstone ritual for the city itself? By locking the mica into a firm date, we can cross-reference it with other archaeological data, such as shifts in architectural style, evidence of large-scale feasting, or changes in trade patterns. This turns a solitary what into a connected when, and that connection is the bridge to meaning. The mica's value thus multiplies. It is a ritual treasure, a technological puzzle, and now a definitive page in the city's calendar. Its secrecy becomes an event with a date, an intentional act we can place on a timeline of human ambition. This practical utility does not diminish its spiritual weight. Instead, it grounds it in the real, sweaty, year-by-year effort of a civilization striving for eternity. The sheets are a message, and now we might be able to read the postmark. This division between a practical function and a symbolic meaning may be a modern invention. For the architects of Teotihuacan, these were not separate categories to be debated, but two sides of the same sacred coin. The mica's physical brilliance was not an accidental quality that later inspired a spiritual story. It was the very reason for its selection. Its ability to resist heat and moisture was not a handy bonus. It was a manifestation of its inherent, powerful essence. In such a worldview, to use the mineral as a moisture barrier was a spiritual act, and to bury it as a representation of captured sunlight was a supremely practical one, ensuring the cosmic order functioned correctly. The search for a single, exclusive answer Was it a waterproof seal or a sun symbol imposes our fragmented thinking onto a culture that perceived reality as an integrated whole? Their technology was their theology, expressed through materials that perfectly married observable property with cosmic significance. To understand the Mica, we must attempt to see with their eyes, where every stone held a dual citizenship in the kingdoms of physics and faith. A modern analogy might be the way we view gold. We value it for its conductive properties in electronics, a purely functional use. Yet we also craft it into wedding rings and Olympic medals, investing it with profound cultural meaning representing love, achievement, and eternity. For us, these are separate applications. In the ancient mind, such a separation might not have existed. The gold's non-corrupting, everlasting shine was its functional purpose in a ceremonial context. Similarly, the mica's shimmer was its functional capability to interact with light, and its impermeability was its functional role in preserving sacred space. Decoding this requires a holistic lens, one that comfortably holds both the spectrometer reading and the mythic narrative as equally valid data points. It asks us to appreciate a sophistication that lies not in choosing one explanation over the other, but in recognizing that the true genius was in the fusion. The builders did not ask, should we insulate or make a symbol? They asked, which material perfectly embodies the principle of protected, eternal light? The mica was the breathtakingly correct answer, a single solution that addressed architectural integrity, ritual necessity, and cosmic mapping all at once. To reduce it to only one of those dimensions is to miss the symphony for a single note. The sheets whisper to us of a civilization that engineered meaning and sculpted belief, using the very substance of the earth to write a unified theory of the universe in layers of glittering stone. The ingenuity of Teotihuacan whispers a lesson to our own age of advanced composites and smart materials. Their selection of mica was not a mystical guess, but the result of deep, empirical observation passed through generations. They recognized through careful trial and tradition a substance with a unique portfolio of properties, brilliant, flexible, heat-resistant, and impermeable to water. This represents one of humanity's earliest and most elegant case studies in targeted material application. They identified a complex need, whether to protect, to symbolize, or to insulate, and they sourced the single material in their known world that could meet it. This process mirrors the very heart of modern material science, which seeks the perfect match between a material's inherent qualities and a specific functional demand. The builders did not have electron microscopes or molecular models, but they possessed a profound, hands-on literacy with the natural world, a literacy we have largely outsourced to laboratories. Their achievement reminds us that innovation does not follow a straight line from primitive to advanced. It branches, it adapts, and it sometimes forgets. A civilization can cultivate a deep, nuanced knowledge of its environment, developing sophisticated solutions that later eras might dismiss as primitive simply because they lack gears or wires. This perspective invites a fascinating cross-temporal dialogue. Today, scientists increasingly look to nature for inspiration, a field known as biomimicry, designing adhesives based on gecko feet or fabrics that mimic pinecone scales. In a similar spirit, studying ancient use cases like the mica sheets can spark ideas for sustainable material solutions. How did past cultures achieve durability, climate control, or symbolic communication with locally sourced, low-energy materials? Their choices were born of necessity and a holistic view of resources, offering a blueprint for resilience we are now urgently seeking to rediscover. The past, therefore, is not just a graveyard of obsolete tools. It can be a vibrant repository of ingenious, context-specific solutions. The mica's silent, enduring performance beneath the pyramid builds an unexpectedly robust bridge between ancient intuition and modern analysis. proving that a mystery buried for centuries can still shed light on the most contemporary of questions: how to wisely use the gifts of the earth. A single new discovery could rewrite everything we think we know. Imagine archaeologists, perhaps decades from now, carefully brushing away earth in a lesser-studied corner of the complex. Their trowel strikes not rough stone, but the familiar, cool shimmer of another mica deposit, this one perfectly intact and in situ. Or perhaps they uncover a specialized tool kit, a set of polished stone blades and burnishers designed for one purpose only: to split and smooth these delicate mineral sheets. A find like this would be more than just another artifact. It would be a Rosetta Stone for the entire mystery. An intact installation could finally prove or disprove the hidden chamber theory, showing us the exact architectural intent, whether it was a lining, a floor, or a suspended ceiling of light. A specialized tool would speak volumes about the craftsmanship, revealing the precise, hands-on techniques used to handle a material as fragile as glass across such vast distances. More importantly, such a discovery would almost certainly come with context. What else was buried with it? Were there symbolic offerings placed atop the sheets? Were there traces of pigment or impressions from ropes or wooden frames used in its placement? These contextual clues are the missing vocabulary in our translation efforts. They could connect the mica directly to a specific deity, a calendar ritual, or a construction ceremony, moving us from speculation into the realm of documented practice. This potential is what makes archaeology a living science. The mystery of the mica is not a closed book sitting on a shelf. It is an open file, waiting for the next report to come in from the field. Every season of careful excavation at Teotihuacan holds this transformative possibility. Ground-penetrating radar might one day map a distinct, geometric void lined with a reflective material deep within the pyramid of the moon. A re-examination of old excavation notes might reveal a forgotten sketch of a tool that no one at the time understood. This dynamic, unfinished nature is the lifeblood of the discipline. It means the story of Teotihuacan is still being written, layer by literal layer. The final chapter on the glittering sheets has not been composed because the most crucial piece of evidence may still lie buried, patiently awaiting its moment to shine a light on the past and redefine our future understanding. The stones of Teotihuacan may have held a breath we can no longer feel. Across numerous ancient traditions, the most sacred structures were never considered inert piles of rock. They were seen as living bodies, vessels for a spirit or a consciousness, designed with internal systems as vital as our own. From this animistic perspective, the Pyramid of the Sun transforms completely. It is no longer a monument we walk upon, but a being we stand within. Its passages become arteries, its chambers a heart, and its carefully placed materials the specialized organs that kept this colossal entity alive with symbolic power. The hidden mica layer fits perfectly into this metaphysical biology. Think of it as a kind of spiritual lung or a filtering gland. Just as a lung exchanges gases, drawing in life from the air, the mica's shimmering, reflective surface could have been seen as the structure's means of drawing in and processing light, the vital breath of the sun itself. Or, like a pancreas regulating a body's inner balance, the mica's insulating properties could have regulated the flow of telluric energies or spiritual essences within the pyramid's form, maintaining its sacred equilibrium. This changes every aspect of how we interpret the builder's work. Selecting materials was not merely an engineering or decorative choice. It was an act of anatomical selection, choosing the right tissue for the right function. The volcanic rock formed strong bones, the clay and adobe were the flesh and muscle, and the glittering mica sheets became a hidden, vital organ, performing a continuous, unseen process essential for the pyramid's cosmic life. The act of sealing it away forever makes profound sense in this light. You do not display your internal organs, you protect them. Their power operates in the dark, sustaining the whole. This vision of the pyramid as a living entity moves us beyond cold archaeology into a realm of profound intimacy with the past. The builders were not just architects, they were metaphysical physicians, assembling a geological body and imbuing it with a purpose that transcended stone. They constructed a companion for the ages, a silent, sleeping giant whose hidden heart still glitters in the dark, long after its makers and their reasons have turned to dust. Perhaps the Mica's greatest secret is that it held not one purpose, but all of them at once. To demand a single, exclusive explanation is to ask the wrong question of a civilization that saw the universe as a seamless whole. The glittering sheets were a Swiss Army knife of meaning and function, a masterstroke of integrated design. Their true power lay in their profound ambiguity and versatility. For the rulers of Teotihuacan, this exotic material was first a statement of prestige. Sourcing it from a continent away was a breathtaking display of power, a demonstration of connections and influence that stretched to the horizon. It announced that this city could command the rarest resources, weaving them into its very bones. That same material, once acquired, offered brilliant practical utility. Its impermeability made it a perfect shield against moisture, protecting the pyramid's earthen heart from the slow decay of water, ensuring the monument's physical endurance for generations. Yet this practical choice was never just engineering. In a culture that revered light as life itself, the Mica's luminous shimmer transformed it into a symbol of captured sunlight, a piece of the celestial order buried to sanctify the earth below. It became a permanent cosmogram, a hidden map of the sun's journey through the underworld, and within rituals that likely viewed the pyramid as a living entity. This insulating, reflective layer could have been seen as a component for managing spiritual essences or telluric flows, concepts of sacred energy that modern science is only beginning to measure. To separate these functions is to fracture a unified vision. The genius of the builders was in selecting a single material that could perform on every level simultaneously. The mica insulated physically and spiritually. It displayed political might through its concealment. It represented the sun by being hidden from it. This synergistic understanding reflects a mindset where technology was prayer, where politics was cosmology, and where every act of construction was a multi-layered dialogue with the forces of the universe. The sheets were not meant to be passed into categories we invented millennia later. They were a holistic solution, a perfect answer to a question we are still learning how to ask. Their enduring mystery, then, is not a lack of answers, but an abundance of them, all true at the same time, woven together into a single, shimmering strand of intention buried forever in the dark. That shimmering secret beneath the pyramid has long since escaped its stone tomb to live in our collective imagination. The mica sheets have transcended their archaeological context to become a powerful icon within popular culture, a recurring character in narratives that seek to explain humanity's forgotten past. You will find them featured in best-selling books, dramatic television documentaries, and endless online forum discussions, where they are often presented as definitive proof of ancient astronauts, a lost global civilization like Atlantis, or an advanced prehistoric science that understood Earth energies. While mainstream scholars often view these interpretations as sensationalized, this vibrant public engagement plays a crucial, if unexpected, role. It keeps a spotlight on ancient sites like Teotihuacan, generating widespread curiosity that directly translates into visitor interest and, importantly, funding for ongoing, legitimate scientific research. The mica's journey from hidden layer to cultural phenomenon demonstrates how a single, tangible artifact can become a universal gateway. For millions, it is not just a sheet of mineral, it is a keyhole through which they peer into the deep past, asking bold questions about human potential and forgotten chapters of history. This cultural afterlife is now an inseparable part of the artifact's own story. Each new novel that features it, each new documentary that ponders its purpose, adds another layer of modern meaning to those ancient sheets. They have become a symbol for the vast, silent gaps in our historical record, representing all the questions about our ancestors that may never have simple answers. This ongoing cycle of speculation and discovery ensures the enigma remains alive, constantly provoking new generations to look at the old stones with fresh eyes and wonder what other secrets might still be waiting patiently in the dark. The unexplained mica sheets remain a silent, glittering challenge to our assumptions. They are not an anomaly to be filed away, but a permanent invitation to reconsider what we think we know about the past. History, it seems, is not a puzzle with every piece neatly laid out for assembly. It is more like a vast landscape, illuminated in some areas by the clear light of evidence, while other features linger in deep, intriguing shadow. The pyramid's hidden layer is one of those shadows, a feature that refuses to be fully explained by any single theory. Was it a ritual insulator, a prestige trade commodity, a precise celestial marker, or something that lies entirely beyond our current imagination? Perhaps the most honest answer is that it could have been all these things at once, in a world view where the practical and the sacred were woven from the same thread. The true power of this mystery lies not in a definitive answer, but in the quality of the questions it forces us to ask. It compels us to look deeper into the earth, to think more broadly across continents and disciplines, and above all, to respect the profound and holistic sophistication of ancient minds. Their genius was not measured by the machinery they left behind, but by the meaning they built into the world. As we leave this story, consider that some of history's greatest gifts are its unsolved mysteries. They are not failures of understanding, but enduring connections. They remind us that the human quest for meaning, for alignment with the cosmos, and for leaving a mark that whispers across centuries, is a story without an end. What do you believe is the most compelling explanation for the glittering secret beneath the pyramid? Share your own theory in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the unexplained, subscribe for more explorations of history's hidden layers. Keep looking deeper, for the most profound truths are often waiting just beneath the surface.